All right, let's talk code. Are you ready to turn that tangled mess you've been staring at into a clean, powerful, and honestly beautiful program? Well, let's dive in because today we're going to master one of Java's most essential tools for doing exactly that, methods.
You know that feeling, right? When your code is just one giant, endless block? You're copying and pasting the same chunks of logic over and over, and trying to find that one specific function feels like searching for a needle in a haystack. It is such a common problem, but trust me, there is a much, much better way.
The solution to all this chaos is actually pretty elegant. It's something called a method. You can think of methods as the ultimate organizers for your code. They're the absolute secret to bringing order, clarity, and reusability to everything you build. So, let's properly introduce the hero of our story, shall we? We're going to break down exactly what a method is and why it's the fundamental building block for writing efficient and, more importantly, readable Java code. So what is a method, really? At its core, it's just a named block of code designed to perform one specific task. But look at the benefits this brings. Methods make our programs more organized, they let us reuse code instead of rewriting it, which is huge, and they make everything so much easier to read. Okay, to get started, you really only need to know about two fundamental types of methods. And I love this analogy for it. Think of them as two different tools in your programmer's toolkit. You've got the doer and you've got the giver. Let's see how they work. And this right here just illustrates the core difference perfectly. On the left, we've got the doer, or what's officially called a void method. It just does something, like printing a message to the screen, and that's it. Job done. Then, on the right, you have the giver, a return value method. It also performs a task, but its main purpose is to give a single piece of data back to whatever part of the program called it. Here is a perfect, simple example of a doer, or void method. Its whole purpose is to perform one action, in this case, printing welcome to Java, and then it's done. Nothing comes back out. The action itself is the entire point. It just does its thing. Now, let's check out a giver. This is a return value method. It also performs a task, but here's the key difference. At the very end, it hands back a little gift, a single piece of data, like the result of a calculation. That's what the return keyword is all about. It produces a value that we can then catch and use somewhere else in our program. Okay, so we've got the what and the why down. We know the two main types. Now let's get into the how, the actual blueprint. We're going to dissect the structure of a method piece by piece so you can write them yourself with total confidence. To really get this, let's dissect a real example. We're going to use this simple method right here. Its only job is to find the smaller of two numbers. It takes in two numbers, we'll call them num1 and num2, does a little processing, and then spits out the one that's smaller. Let's break down how it's built. Okay, that very first line of any method, that's called the method header. You should think of it like the method's unique signature. It tells Java 5 absolutely crucial things: the access modifier, a keyword like static, the return type, the method's name, and finally, the parameters it needs as input. Let's zoom in on those first two bits, public and static. Public is just an access modifier. It basically means this method is open for business and can be called from anywhere in your project. And static? That just means you can call this method directly, without needing to create a whole new object first. You're going to see public static all the time, especially for handy utility methods like this one. Now for the rest of that signature, the int right before the name is super important. It tells us this is a giver method that's going to return an integer. The name itself is min, and hey, pro tip, always choose clear descriptive names. And inside those parentheses are the parameters, the two pieces of information, num1 and num2, that this method needs to do its job. All right, now for the good stuff. Everything inside those curly braces, that's the method body. This is where the actual work gets done. So for our min method, it's pretty straightforward. First, we just assume the first number is the smallest and we save it. Next, we compare the second number to what we've saved. Then, if that second number turns out to be smaller, we update our saved result. And finally, we return whatever value is left. Simple, clean, and effective. Okay, we've been looking at the tiny details, right? The nuts and bolts. But now, let's zoom out. Where does a single method actually fit into the big picture of a whole Java program? This table just lays it out so clearly. A whole Java program, it can run all by itself. But a method? Nope. It has to be called into action. A program might be juggling a bunch of different tasks, but a really good method is hyper-focused on just one. The big takeaway is that methods are the specialized building blocks that you use to construct a larger, more complex program.
You know, this quote really is the best way to think about it. The main program is your entire workshop. It's where everything happens. And a method? That's your specialized tool in that workshop. A hammer, a screwdriver, a saw. Each one designed for one specific job, just sitting there, ready to be picked up and used whenever you need it.
So, by turning your code from one long, messy scroll into a neat collection of well-defined methods, you've essentially created a recipe book. Each method is a perfect little recipe for one specific task. So, the only question left is, what are you going to cook up first?